The day the banks locked the doors. The Argentine Corralito. Imagine a normal Friday. You've just received your salary. You have plans for the weekend. You have savings for your daughter's wedding or your son's university. Then on Saturday morning, you go to the ATM and it's out of service. You try your credit card at the grocery store, it's declined. You turn on the news and a government official, sweating under the camera lights, tells you that for the protection of the national economy, you are only allowed to withdraw $250 per week from your own account. This was the Corralito in 2001. Argentina, country that was the envy of South America, became a laboratory for financial tyranny. This is the story of how a modern middle class was destroyed in 48 hours, and why the Argentine disease is now spreading to the West. To understand the Corralito, you have to understand the lie that preceded it. For 10 years, the Argentine government told its citizens that 1 peso was equal to $1. Te caedit convertibility. It felt like magic. Argentines traveled the world, bought luxury cars, and felt rich. But it was a house of cards built on massive foreign debt. When the debt became unpayable and the IMF turned its back, the government faced a choice: go bankrupt or steal from the people. They chose the latter. The lesson for 2026 is simple. Whenever a government promises a fixed rate or a guaranteed value that isn't backed by reality, they are setting a trap. The higher the illusion of stability, the more violent the eventual crash. The Corralito was not just a limit on withdrawals. It was a psychological prison. The word Corralito literally means little playpen, the place where you put toddlers so they can't escape. That is exactly what the government did to the citizens' money. They trapped it. Because people couldn't get cash, the entire economy ground to a halt. Small businesses that relied on cash to pay suppliers died in days. People who needed surgery couldn't pay the hospitals. This is the ultimate danger of a cashless society. If the government or the banks decide to flip the switch, you have zero autonomy. You are a prisoner in your own life, holding a plastic card that is suddenly as useless as a piece of scrap metal. Then came the Pesification. This is the part that truly murdered the middle class. Most people had their savings in US dollars because they didn't trust the peso. The government realized this, so they forcibly converted everyone's dollar accounts into pesos at an arbitrary rate. Then they let the peso lose 70% of its value in weeks. In a single stroke of a pen, the government wiped out 70% of the nation's private wealth to pay off the state's public debt. This is the Great Reset in its purest form. The socialization of losses. They didn't come to your house to take your money. They simply changed the numbers on a screen. If your wealth is digital and centralized, it is not yours. It is alone. You have granted to a system that can default at any time. The streets of Buenos Aires turned into a war zone. People didn't just protest. They attacked the banks with hammers and fire. The catarolazo, the banging of pots and pans, became the soundtrack of a dying economy. But the banks had reinforced their windows with steel plates. They knew the crash was coming. They had moved their own capital out of the country months before the doors were locked. This is a recurring theme in survival economics. The elites always have the exit memo before the public. By the time you see the out of service sign on the ATM, the people who caused the crisis are already sitting on a beach in a jurisdiction that doesn't have an extradition treaty. How did people survive? They returned to the most primitive form of trade, the barter clubs, nodus trueque. At the height of the crisis, 7 million Argentines were surviving by trading clothes for eggs, or car repairs for bags of flour. They created their own private currencies called creditos, printed on cheap paper. But even these were eventually forged by criminals. The only things that held true value were hard assets. Those who had physical gold coins, US dollars hidden under floorboards, or a garage full of non-perishable food were the new wealthy. In a collapse, wealth is redefined from how much do you have in the bank to how long can you survive without a bank. The social fabric didn't just tear, it dissolved. Trust vanished. Neighbors who had known each other for 20 years fought over scraps. This is the dark side of the survival story. When the Corralito happens, it brings out the worst in human nature. The government uses this chaos to justify more control, more police, and more restrictions. They create the fire and then offer themselves as the only firemen. The only way to avoid this is preemptive independence. You must build your own Corralito-proof life today. This means having at least 3 to 6 months of physical cash, a supply of silver for small trades, and a network of people you trust outside the official system. The Argentine crisis of 2001 is a mirror for the modern world. Today, we see global debt at levels that make 2001 Argentina look fiscally responsible. We see the push for central bank digital currencies, which are essentially a digital Corralito waiting to happen. With a CBDC, the government wouldn't even need to lock the bank doors. They could simply program your digital wallet to only allow spending on essentials or green products. The infrastructure for the next great confiscation is being built right now under the guise of convenience and safety. The lessons of the Corralito are non-negotiable for anyone who wants to remain free. First, digital is fragile. If you can't touch it, you don't own it. Second, diversify your jurisdictions. If all your assets are in one country, you are a hostage to that government's desperation. Third, skills are the ultimate currency. In 2001, the people who survived best were the fixers, the people who could maintain cars, repair shoes, or heal the sick without a hospital. They had value that no government decree could devalue. We are entering a period of global financial instability that will make 2001 look like a dress rehearsal. The signs are all there. Inflation, bank failures, and the desperate rhetoric of central planners. The Corralito is coming to a city near you. But it won't be called that. It will be called a temporary banking holiday, a currency reset, or a security upgrade. But the result will be the same. The doors will lock, the screens will go dark, and the wealth of the unprepared will be hurt. Your survival depends on your ability to see the lie before it becomes the law. Do not wait for the announcement on the news. By then, the cage is already closed. Take your wealth out of the line of fire. Invest in assets that have no counterparty risk. Build a life that can function when the grid fails. Information is your only asset. Resilience is your only shield. Welcome to the reality of survival economics.